Hello world, this is your math tutor Anju. The topic we'll be tackling in this video is the powers of negative integers. Let's first do a quick recap of the multiplication of integers before moving on to exponents. Here's a tip for remembering the signs when two integers are multiplied. When the two integers that are being multiplied are either both positive or both negative, then the resultant product would always be a positive integer. For example, positive 3 times positive 3 gives positive 9, and a negative 3 times a negative 3 also gives a positive 9. When the two integers that are being multiplied have different signs, that is, one is a positive integer while the other is a negative integer, then the resultant product would always be a negative integer. For example, a negative 3 times positive 3 gives a negative 9, and a positive 3 times a negative 3 also gives a negative 9. Let's summarize this as positive times positive gives a positive, and negative times negative also gives a positive. Similarly, negative times positive gives a negative, and positive times negative also gives a negative. Now that we have looked into the signs when two integers are multiplied, let's extend this rule to include multiplication of two or more integers. We have seen that a negative times negative gives a positive integer. Let's write this in an exponential form. That is, a negative integer to the whole power of 2 would give a positive integer. Let's look at what happens when three negative integers are multiplied. Negative times negative gives a positive, and then the positive times negative gives a negative integer. In the exponential form, this can be written as a negative integer to the whole power of 3 gives a negative integer. When we multiply four negative integers, we get a positive integer. We can write this in the exponential form. Negative integer to the power of 4 gives a positive integer. Similarly, when we multiply 5 negative integers, we would finally get a negative integer. Now writing this in exponential form, we would get a negative integer to the whole power of 5 gives a negative integer. For powers 2, 4, 6 and 8, we get a positive integer, and for powers 3, 5, 7 and 9, we get a negative integer. So we can conclude that when the power of a negative integer is an even number, we would get a positive integer. Let's look at some examples. Negative 3 square is positive 9. Similarly, negative 2 to the power of 4 is positive 16. In both these examples, the power is an even number. Hence, we get a positive integer as a result. Similarly, when the power of a negative integer is an odd number, we would get a negative integer as a result. For instance, negative 3 the whole power 3 is negative 27, and negative 2 the whole power 5 is negative 32. In both these examples, the power of the negative integer is an odd number. Hence, we get a negative integer as a result. Please note that the brackets are mandatory when the base is a negative integer. Let's look at an example. Negative 5 square is not equal to negative 5 the whole square. Let's first look at negative 5 square. Please note that here the negative 5 is not enclosed within a parenthesis. By the order of operations, exponents or powers have a higher precedence over the negative sign. So this would be solved as 5 times 5, which is equal to 25, and then the negative sign is applied, so the result would be negative 25. But if you look at negative 5 the whole square, this is nothing but negative 5 times negative 5, which is equal to a positive 25.